You're tuned in to The Keetra Show and listening to SOB, Style of Business, the podcast with your host, Keetra. We aim to highlight the ongoing trek of entrepreneurs and business owners from around the globe, featuring stories that recount their struggles, experiences, and inevitable road to success and self-fulfillment. Welcome to SOB.
This podcast is being brought to you by my inspiring new book titled Courage is a Muscle, Using Heart to Power Your Entrepreneurial Dreams. You can grab your copy today on Amazon. Hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks so much for tuning in and checking out another wonderful episode of SOB, Style of Business, the podcast. This is your host, Keetra, and you guys already know we have another wonderful guest that's hopping in and joining us today and talking about everything entrepreneurship, everything creativity, everything life, pivoting, what's next. You know, we're talking about podcasts. We're just having a good time. I'm talking to my good friend, Tonee, who is the... Hello, Ash. What is going down, girl? She is the host of Viva La Life podcast, and we just have another, chill, laid-back episode. So you guys tune in, get your pens and pads together. Maybe there'll be some inspiration that hits, and, we're just talking about creativity and how we're looking forward to this last few months of 2021. So you guys tune in and enjoy the episode. Tonee, go ahead and drop that intro for us and give us a brief of who you are.
Okay, cool. So you already said it. I'm Tonee. I host the Viva La Life podcast. We've been, this is going to be our fourth season coming next month in September. And, that's pretty much what I've been working on lately. I am the owner of the Bossy Prada Boots website, entertainment website. But for now, like I said, we're doing some rebrands. I want to come back stronger, especially for the holidays, but especially for 2022. So, yeah, for right now, though, I'm the host of Viva La Life podcast.
All right. Sounds good. The host of Viva La Life podcast, you guys. All right. So let's jump into this thing. All right. So, the podcasting game has really taken a turn for the better. Things have stepped up. There's so many opportunities. There's so many. Yes, it's crazy. Like we got so many wonderful guests that we can feature. And just really for me, what podcasting is, not only bringing, some awesome guests to share to the audience, but also I've learned like so much, after speaking with like 200 plus people. And, I think it's a great way to kind of spur the creativity. So like give us a little bit about Viva La Life podcast, like what you're specifically focusing on. And also like, how did you get into podcasting?
So originally I got into it through college. I created it because I needed somewhere to intern. And so it was like it was for film, television, radio, a class. And so that was the radio show kind of proportion. So it was basically they wanted us to intern at a radio station. And so back in 2018, there wasn't too many people doing podcasting. So, and I've always wanted to do it. So I was like, let me just try to create a podcast and get that running and see if that'll count as like internship credits. So that's originally why the podcast Viva La Life was even like born. And then from there, it was just like, this is really fun. And so I did it another year. And then after that, Anchor started opening, because that's where I partner with Anchor. Yeah. They started opening opportunities for sponsorships. And I was like, what? You can make money now? So I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm really into this now. So fast forward, it's 2021, and we still doing it season after season.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, and when you just mentioned like the monetization part, right? That's always an incentive to keep going, especially when people are interested and, your audience base is growing. And like I checked out a couple of your episodes. Like, do you like what, Viva La Life, obviously the title, can be open to pretty much featuring anything. But like, what do you enjoy most? And like, is there a specific angle that you try to capture when you have the different guests on your show?
Yeah, it's mostly Viva La Life. It's like living the life. So that encompasses like pretty much a lot of stuff that we go through as humans, just for everything, whether it be trying to like be, a good family member or a good, entrepreneur or a student. Like it's really there to like, for me to like comment and talk about different things we go through that a lot of other media outlets don't talk about. So I kind of wanted to be more so the stuff that we I guess, are you got to be diplomatically correct on, or things that you just don't say in society. That's really the stuff that I like to talk about on my podcast.
Right.
But then, I have it where under comedy, because I like to do like a funny take on things. I don't like it to be so serious, even though I do talk about a lot of different serious topics. I like to like make jokes about it because, sometimes about life, you just got to laugh anyway through all the hard times, through all the BS, you just got to laugh about it. So, yeah, the ultimate motto, though, is to, like, push forward. Like, we're going to get through this. Let's talk about it and push forward.
Exactly.
And,
yeah. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so, yeah, and that's pretty much, like, the guests that I do have on. I just want to hear things from their perspective because, sometimes I don't agree. But I do like to hear the other perspective because, I only have my own. So when I hear other people's, I get to see the world in more of a different color than just the only way that I was, like, in a way born or the way that I see it myself.
Exactly. Yep. I agree with you 1,000%. And I like the fact that you mentioned just being able to laugh at stuff. Like, people are so serious. I tell you, like, you can barely say, things a little bit off, what the mainstream would say because, it's viewed as not being politically correct, or you'll hurt someone's feelings, or right. It's always like you're responsible for pushing someone to the edge when really everybody should be responsible for their own thoughts, and reactions. Mm-hmm. So I love that you fuel the comedy in, and that reminds me, like, because when I was we connected late last year, early this year, I can't even remember, but I was kind of going through like some of your stuff, and even like the throwback comedy video skits that you were doing early on. So I knew from the first episode that I heard that it would be a little bit of comedy, and it was just kind of based off your history and your background, just being somebody who likes to laugh and enjoy life. So yep. So that's cool. That's cool that you put feature that as well, and like. Creativity, like I know that's another thing that you and I kind of see eye to eye on, is just being creative and coming up with different ways to, just to inspire people and to really keep people entertained. So like, as far as creativity, like, is there any, anything that specifically inspires your creative juices, or like, tell me a little bit about like your creative process and how you go about coming up with these episode themes.
Okay. It's changed a lot, especially since like the whole pandemic, because before it was like, if I'm feeling good, then, I'm motivated, I feel inspired to do a show or an episode, and I'll write a topic. Lately though, I've been learning though with creativity, like it's not going to always be the greatest conditions. So if I'm waiting for good conditions for a creative insight or something, then I won't ever be inconsistent. I'll be inconsistent. Because it's like, oh, I have it here, but I might not have it today. Or, anything on the outside will affect what I produce creatively. So this year I've been trying to be like really focused on being grounded, to where that despite whatever's going on, despite if things are going, the way I want to or not, I can still be able to like fall back into myself and still be in touch with, okay, what do you like? What do you want? What do you want to produce? Yeah. But then also I've learned that a lot of my creativity lately has been coming like out of the struggle. Yeah. So like after coming out of a struggle, then, it inspires me because it's like, okay, cool. Like not only do I have something to talk about on the podcast with other people that may be going through the same thing or that can relate, but now like, it's just a whole new layer to what I have to offer in regards to, entrepreneurship, being creative, like different things like that. So my creativity, it comes in waves, but I'm learning how to ground it and just like take the creative side out of everything. Like almost everything you can be inspired to create something from. So that's pretty much how I've been rocking it.
Yeah, I need to take some lessons like that. But the like seriously, like the biggest thing for me, like sometimes when you don't feel like doing it, You know what I mean? Like not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily burnout, but you don't feel the motivation. You know, for me, like I like to, you know, try to stay in a zone of being self-motivated, but sometimes it's just not there, you know, and I'm like, look, I know I said I was going to interview you today, but we might have to look at, you know, doing something else because you got your own personal life that is still happening. So like, as far as, you know, pivoting and navigating and being able to move about and to still be productive, like what are some of the things that have helped you to where, you know, you're just kind of moving through? I know you just briefly described that, like you still move forward with getting stuff done, but like specifically, what are a few things that help?
Well, for starters, I had to like go back to the beginning and write down, okay, what is it that you really are passionate about? Because like, I know you get that too. And especially in the entertainment field, like you just get caught up in so many projects, and then, you know, you just not really overwhelmed, but you just have a lot on your plate. To where when you start scaling back and looking like, okay, what do I really like? What is it that I even got in this for? Like, what do I really want to do? What part do I enjoy the most? So I had to sit down and like write all those down, and then just focus on that. Like focus on that. So like where I'm open to other things, but my focus is just like the main 2 or 3 things that drive me. Like, all right, this is what I live for. And so for me, that's podcasting, my store. And well, right now it's just those 2. Those are the 2 things that I'm like just super like the passion never died, despite how hard it gets, despite, you know, whether I get participants or not. Like just my podcast and my store are the only 2 things that, you know, that I'm very passionate about as of today. So for me, start off writing them all down, and then just going into like execution. And when I did that, I narrowed down all the extra stuff that would take away my attention so that it's not draining creatively. So like I'm not spending all my time editing for a video when I'm not really passionate as much about whatever that video is for. And I could use that energy for recording a podcast or creating a candle or something like that. So that's pretty much what I started off doing. I just narrowed to like, what is it that I really want to do? Like that I'm really passionate about, that I'm just going to be pursuing regardless. And then I go from there. And then everything else, like, you know, I just switch it or put it on the list for something else later. Like after I achieve those goals, then maybe I'll scale out to this, and this. But for the beginning, I just try to focus on the main 2 or 3 things.
Yeah. And to me, like, that's enough. Like, first of all, 1 is enough, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, one is enough. So when you have 2, that's, to me, like, that should be, you know, more than enough to keep you consumed and to really be able to kind of spread your creativity between those 2 projects. Like, what are your thoughts on multitasking? Is that something that you believe in? Like, I'm telling you, when I do it, you know, when I try to do it, like nothing gets done. Everything is always like started, but nothing is nothing is completed.
Yeah. I used to think that I could do it, you know, because people always like kind of train you to multitask. Yeah. But from experience, it's like, no, like that does not work. Like, because you just have too much energy into like all taken in too many spots. Like I just see it more progress when you focus on one at a time. Yeah. Like just focusing on one at a time, and you give that your all, then that one thing is just going to be like super good because you really gave that one thing like everything you had, opposed to splitting everything you had amongst like 5, 6 different projects.
Exactly. And knowing when to say no. Like that's been a big one for me this year, is like, you know, just trying to make sure that I'm mindful of my personal boundaries, and, you know, and just not trying to be everything to everybody, you know, because we, you know, I think not only as entrepreneurs, but as women as well, you know, we get, you know, into the state to where we feel like we have to give our time and attention to, you know, people, places, and, you know, different projects that just really don't serve, and they deplete your energy. So just kind of saying no, and just knowing your boundaries, I think that's important, especially when it comes to productivity. You gotta know when to be out, right?
Right, right. Because you still gotta have some self-care time. Like
that self-care is serious.
Build up the body that does all the work.
Look, you are either gonna build it up or it will be torn apart if you are not mindful of what you need to do for your own mental health. Like that's another important thing as well with everything that's going on and nationwide, worldwide, wherever you're listening to this. I know everybody is experiencing some sort of maybe you're in a different job, or maybe something is happening in your life to where things are just chaotic. So just being able to stay focused, I think that's important. Like what are you doing to kind of keep your mental health and to keep you focused on the things that are really prospering you and pushing you forward?
For me, especially like with mental health, I have to learn to just like try to reduce stress levels. So a lot of things that I want to get wrapped up in and I want to be consumed with, whether it be pushing a business, whether it be money, whether it be trying to like get interviews, whether it be working, like I just learned to try to like keep the stress level like down. And the way I do that, like for me, like I meditate. I just got to meditate. I got to take a minute and meditate because when I take that minute to just think about things and ground myself, it feels like just like the order comes to me, like, all right, I could do this, this, and this, cut that out, or I'm not going to do nothing at all. Like, it's just kind of like, I really had to learn to like listen to like what I'm feeling, because like the world don't stop. Nothing will stop. So you got to take that minute to stop for yourself and then be like, all right, like, what do I want to do? Like, do I want to take the day off? Do I want to do anything? And that's another thing too, like being comfortable with not doing anything, because like you always feel like, oh, I got something to do. I want to be productive, I have to be consistent. But then sometimes it's like really important that you just let yourself be, take the time off and be okay with it, not just use that whole time to be upset that you took the time off. So yeah, those two things, like grounded myself and just being okay with not always accomplishing the most, that really helps me, like with my mental health, to where even when I do get losses on top of that, I don't feel like I gave everything that I had and still lost. When I have a loss, I just feel like, all right, well, I tried, but, at least I built myself up in this process. So I don't feel like I lost nothing,
Right, yeah.
So that's kind of how I go about it.
Yeah. And that's, it's important to make sure that you're monitoring your, the thoughts, right? Like the self-talk and stuff like that. And as entrepreneurs, hey, we fail more times than, the success that we see. So I already know what you're talking about when you, the hits and the misses and, trying things that are new and things not working out, and you have to kind of rework and sort things out. And when it comes to like your own personal entrepreneurial journey, one of the biggest things with just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, like that falls within like the whole, like how are you marketing? What are your ideas on just trying to present your products, whether it be, your candles or your podcast, and just being able to get what you've created out into the world. Like what are some takeaways that you've learned as far as like your own journey and how to best position yourself so that people can become aware of your brands?
Well, I'm a huge, believer in social media being, a great platform to start on. And even that, like I try to focus on just one social media. Before I would be like, oh, let me get Twitter, let me get this, let me get that, let me get that. Yeah. But it's like, you can't be everywhere at one time. So for me, like I really like Twitter. Like I scaled down to like Twitter is like one of my most favorite places to promote my stuff, to even run concepts. I'll run polls all the time to just like get an idea of what people are thinking. And those polls that people answer usually more times are what I'm like homework for me to see, okay, well, what am I going to put in this episode, or what am I going to put in this candle even? So like I use my Twitter polls a lot to just kind of get an idea of what the general or what my followers are thinking or what page they're on, so I can kind of meet them there. Another thing I've learned is networking. At first, I did not think networking was such a big focus on until this year, where I have like certain people, they'll take off on a whole different social media site or something like that. And just because you guys met on Twitter, they always come back and then they're always like, oh, hey, look, this new thing is popping. Let me help you promote your stuff, or here, get on this. Like for me, I always have people that may have success on different platforms, and they come back and tell me like, oh, hey, like do this, do that. And so then I'll get like a jump of people that are like on the wave now. So networking and Twitter are like my two like go-tos for like getting my name, my brand out there.
Yeah, no, Twitter definitely. Like I advocate for Twitter every which way, simply because, like, you know, not only can you use the polls, but I think to me that's been where I've been able to establish the more you know, direct and genuine connections. You know, sometimes, and I'm not saying that you can't do that on Facebook and Instagram, but that's just like my lane. You know, and then like, you know, you don't have time. You could just post your message or your audio note or whatever and not have to worry about images. Like, it's just a lot to me to have to manage 10 different social platforms, you know. So I do have the Facebook and the Instagram and the LinkedIn, but a lot of the interaction that I do is definitely on Twitter, and I agree with you as far as scaling back. And and I want to, like, I know we're getting ready to close here in a bit, but I want to talk a little bit about your focus going forward, you know, because we have we're in, I think by the time this airs, we'll be well into September, or just about maybe a couple of weeks or whatever. And then we still have October, November, December. So we have this last quarter of 2021 in front of us. Yeah. So it went by fast, right?
It sure did.
Right. So like what sort of plans or goals, or like what are you most looking forward to, and what are you doing to create the success that you want to see for yourself?
Well, for starters, I'm looking forward to, you know, the new season of my podcast that launches in September. So that's kind of what I'll be focusing on, closing out this year, with just that, which I'm excited for, just because there's so much new stuff that's happened since the last season, and different new people that I'm going to have on. And then I've also been just rebranding with the whole Bossy Prada Boots Entertainment website. Yeah. So right now I'm just adding things, taking things away, looking at like what angle I want to do and make sure it's still aligned with me. And hopefully by Christmas time, it's relaunched. Like that's what the plan is, to just relaunch and go into 2022 strong with new, fresh ideas, fresh content, and see how everybody responds to it. Hopefully, you know, reap the benefits of all this.
Exactly. No, they definitely will. Like I enjoy your content personally, and I think it resonates, you know, because it's where a lot of people are. You know, you're talking about life situations, and a lot of us, you know, although we may not directly say it to people who are within our circles, you know, a lot of us feel some of the ways that we are experiencing when we hear like these different conversations. So that's important. So I'm going to encourage you to make sure you keep pumping out that content, because we need it.
For sure.
And and then also, like, as far as just words of encouragement or inspiration, like what maybe, you know, what type of thoughts or what type of words would you have for somebody who's in a place to where they're looking to move forward and they just kind of need that extra few words, or, you know, just that motivation to get going?
I would say to throw out like all your expectations, like, okay, so you know where you want to go, you have your goal, but then have no expectations to how you're going to get there, because you'll be so focused trying to get there the way you think you should be getting there. And it'll be a whole new opportunity, a whole new lane for you just ready. And you're missing it because you think, oh, it has to be this way. So go, like, for people that want to go for it, I just say throw out all your expectations and just be open, because if you already set that as your goal, you're going to get there. Now your job now is to figure out, okay, now which lane is mine? Like, where do I take that? And for that, you got to be open, because you got to be alert. You got to be looking for it, because it's coming. You just got to figure out which one is for you, because the last thing you want to do is take a lane that's not all the way comfortable. And now you built all this off of something that's not even comfortable to you. So that's my biggest, like, takeaway advice that I could give.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a deep one. Stay in your lane and don't worry about the how. We're laughing, but like I already know we get caught up with being concerned about how this will come to fruition. Like, how can we reach this goal? And that's what you're basically saying is like that's not even something that you need to be wrapped up in.
Right.
Hey, words of advice, words of encouragement, guys. Don't even worry about how. Just make the intent, set the goal and get started. And before we wrap up, Ash, I want you to let us know where we can reach you on social, and also be sure to let us know where we can find and listen to the podcast as well.
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at Bossy Prada Boots. That's the @ BOSSY PRADABOOTS on Twitter. And you can find the podcast, Viva Life Podcast, we stream on all major platforms. So Spotify, Good Pods, I think even Pod Nation does their own streaming service, Anchor. But yeah, Viva La Life Podcast, just type it on in and whatever platform you're comfortable with streaming on, that's where it's going to be.
All right. So Viva La Life Podcast, guys, tune in. Check out the new season coming up in September, this month, actually. By the time you guys hear it, it'll be this month. So don't miss that. And Ash, we appreciate you for being such a wonderful guest. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on SOB. We hope this episode has been resourceful. If you'd like to check out the latest articles or follow Keetra's website updates, just log on to Keetra.com or follow her on Twitter at KEETRIA.